Part 5 Complicated Love. The next morning, Ginny, who was about to go to the office, looked at Lisa, who was still fast asleep. She then decided to wake her up. "Lisa, come on, wake up. It's noon," she said slowly while holding Lisa's shoulder and shaking it. "Does she still not want to come to the office today?" "Never mind, she might take a long leave. I better go to the office now," mumbles softly. Ginny decided to let Lisa continue her sleep. Before leaving, he had prepared breakfast for Lisa, which had become his duty. Not long after Ginny left, Lisa's eyes seemed to blink. She opened his eyes perfectly and yawned. "Shit, did she intentionally not wake me up?" disappointed Lisa, because she looked at the time on her cell phone. It showed 08:15. Lisa, who had not had time to save her cell phone, suddenly her cell phone rang and she immediately received her incoming call. "Hello, who is this?" "Sis, it's me." "Me? Who?" "Who else but your handsome little brother?" After knowing that it was Jisoo who called her, Lisa could only breathe heavily while holding her cell phone quite firmly because she was furious. "Where have you been all this time? Can you meet me at the cafe today? I want to explain everything. I hope you don't tell anyone, especially Mama, if we will meet." Continued. "All right, I'll be there at noon." Lisa immediately disconnected the call, then got ready to go to her office. Meanwhile, in another place, Ginny was waiting for a taxi while walking. However, it's been almost 25 minutes of walking, but she hasn't gotten a taxi yet. Ginny, who was crossing the road, was suddenly surprised by a motorcyclist from the side driving her vehicle very fast. "AWW!" She screamed in pain because she fell to the ground and tried to stand up while holding his ankle, which hurt. She tried to get up, but she was really struggling. "Miss, are you all right? Come on, I'll help you," said a man who was already in front of Ginny while holding out his hand. "I'm fine, thanks, I can wake up myself," replied by Ginny, refusing. Ginny again tried to stand up slowly after she managed to clean some of her clothes, which were dirty with dust. The man currently in front of Ginny was none other than Jisoo, Ginny's childhood friend and sister-in-law, but they both seem oblivious to each other. "Why did you fall?" asked Jisoo curiously. "I avoided the motorcyclist who almost hit me earlier," she answered while looking down. "Excuse me," continued. "Goodbye." Ginny walked with a limp leg due to a sprain, and it hurt quite a bit, but tried to hold it in. "Wait, miss, where is your house? Let me take you home. You seem to have sprained your leg and it's impossible to walk far," said Jisoo, running a little closer to Ginny, who was quite difficult to walk. "No, I'm fine. I can go home alone. Thank you for your officer," replied with a low nod. "You look in pain. I'll take you home, miss. I have absolutely no ill will towards you," said Jisoo convincingly. But it still didn't make Ginny change her mind to accept her offer. It didn't take long for Ginny to see a taxi crossing the street. She immediately waved her hand. "Thanks again for your offer. I can go home alone," Ginny said with a small smile, and got into the taxi that had just stopped. "Miss, wait, what's your name?" Jisoo shouted, but the taxi that Ginny was riding in had already gone first. "Shit, What's that Mrs. name? Could it be that she works around here? Tomorrow I will pass this road again. Maybe he will cross this road again, Jisoo muttered. He got back into his car. Ginny decided to go back to her house because her legs hurt so much from falling, while Lisa, who happened to be still there and had just come out of her room. "Aren't you at the office? Why are you coming home so early?" said Lisa while frowning. Ginny just kept silent, ignoring Lisa's warning. She walked into her room. However, when Lisa saw her wife walking with a limp, she decided to follow her. "What's wrong with your leg?" he asked curiously, while looking at his wife's feet. "None of your business," Jenny snapped, then sat on the sofa without looking at her husband. "What would you do?" Ginny asked, surprised, looking at Lisa, who was already squatting in front of her and just wanted to check her legs. "Can you be quiet? I just want to help you, and I think this is also my duty as your husband. Haven't you been carrying out your duties as a wife all this time?" Lisa replied flatly. "You don't have to do your job. And as for what I've been up to, it's just I don't want to disappoint my mom. I don't want her to know that this marriage is just a charade." Lisa just kept quiet without responding to Ginny's words, while Ginny hoped there was a response from her words. "Lisa, are you not listening to me?" Ginny asked while looking down, because Lisa was still squatting in front of her without moving or saying anything. "I just wanted to help you," Lisa replied, staring intently at his wife's eyes. "Oh boy," Ginny screams, holding back the pain, because Lisa unintentionally touches her feet. "It looks like it's sprained. How come you sprained it?" asked Lisa while gently touching Ginny's ankle. "None of your business. Please step aside. I just want to rest," Ginny said while brushing off Lisa's hand, which was still touching her ankle. "Obviously this is my business, Ginny. If anything goes wrong with you, I can take the blame. Got it?" replied Lisa, who raised her voice in annoyance. "Wait here. Don't go anywhere," continued Lisa, then got up from her place. Lisa fetched warm water from the kitchen. Then she came back in front of Ginny and crouched down again like before, then compresses Ginny's feet while giving a small massage to her feet. Ginny, who was treated like that, could only be silent and watch her husband so carefully. Without realizing it, she showed a thin smile. "Does it still hurt?" asked Lisa, who was still focused on Ginny's feet. Ginny didn't answer Lisa's question because she was already lost in her own daydream, and Lisa, who realized it, immediately looked at Ginny's face, who was still focused on looking at her. "Ginny, Jen," called Lisa while gently patting Ginny's cheek. Yes, Lee, what's wrong?" asked Ginny, who had gasped in surprise. "Are you all right?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "How about your leg? Does it still hurt?" "It's not like before," replied by Ginny slowly. "In that case, good." After that, Lisa remembered that she already had an appointment to meet her sister at the cafe. "Take a break. I'll stay out for a while," said Lisa, who immediately stood up while holding a small basin of warm water. "Even if you're gone for a long time, it doesn't matter to me," Jenny murmured softly. "Did you just say something?" asked Lisa to make sure. "No, don't say anything. There you go," answered Ginny quickly while looking away. Lisa grabbed the cell phone as well as the car key and put it in her bag, and when she was about to step out of the room, suddenly Lisa closed it and went back to Ginny. "What else?" asked Jenny curiously. Don't forget to eat and drink pain medicine. I have prepared it on the table, she said slowly, then she stepped back to leave Ginny. Ginny frowned in surprise. She watched Lisa from behind, who had disappeared from her bedroom door. Turns out he has a heart too. It's pretty cute with her acting like that, mumbled quietly. Is he going to meet his lover? It can't be at this hour, she's just at the office, right? Continued again. Well, why would I think about it? She said, waking up from all his words, then went to his bed. Lisa, who had just arrived at the cafe, immediately met Jisoo, who was seen sitting in the corner of the cafe accompanied by a woman. Without saying a word, he immediately sat in front of Jisoo without paying attention to the woman beside him, while the woman continued to stare at Lisa. Hey Lee, long time no see, she said, smiling. Sorry, I'm not here to meet you but with the man who is with you at this time, and so you left us, Lisa replied with a cold attitude. What's wrong with me greeting you, Lee? Didn't we? Enough, don't bring up what I don't want to hear anymore, and one thing you need to know, and maybe you already know, that I already have a wife, Lisa said with a sharp look. The woman could only sigh harshly, then looked at Jisoo, who had been silent all this time, not wanting to interfere with the two of them arguing. After seeing Jisoo nod as a sign telling her to leave, the woman immediately got up from her chair and left the cafe without looking back again. How are you, sis? Asked Jisoo, starting the conversation. According to you, Lisa replied with a straight face. Excuse me, said Jisoo slowly. If you hadn't run away, then I wouldn't have married that woman, Lisa said with a sharp look. I thought with me running away, Mama would cancel the wedding, but, as it turned out, it was my sister who was asked by my mother to replace me, Jisoo replied with a pitiful face. If you refuse this matchmaking from the start, Mama won't force you either. But, you know how Mama's character is. Mum always insists, and I've always followed his wishes. But, for this matter I can't. I really can't do it. When Mama offered an arranged marriage with Ginny, I couldn't refuse for fear of hurting Mama, Lee's feelings. Belanya. You idiot. Did you know that you ran away? You actually hurt Mama's feelings, even almost hurting himself. And if Mama hadn't tried to kill herself, I also don't want to be married to Ginny, pressed Lisa. What? Mama tried to kill herself? Asked Jisoo with his eyes wide as if he couldn't believe what Lisa just said. Oh my god, what kind of child am I? Jisoo muttered by rubbing his face roughly. He put his hands on his head regretfully. Mama is doing all this because Mama has already told all of Papa's big family about your wedding plans, and Mama doesn't want to be humiliated again by Papa's big family. I'm sorry, said Jisoo slowly, with a sad face full of regret. Never mind, everything has happened too. You better go back home and apologize to Mama. Tomorrow I will return home and apologize to Mama. How is your relationship with Ginny? It's all my fault. I will find a way to keep her out of your life. No need. I can handle my own personal problems. Why, could it be that you have fallen in love with that materialistic and hypocritical woman? Shut your mouth. She is now my wife, so you have to speak politely. And just so you know, me is not at all interested in her. Just waiting for the right time to end this marriage. Ha. Sorry, Lee. I'll help you, said Jisoo, a little laugh. No need for me to say. I can handle my own problems. Oh yeah. What do you mean by saying it's materialistic and hypocritical? Asked Lisa, curious. When Mama, planning to set me up with Ginny, I tried to find out about his life and happened to know her from high school even to college. So that's why you brought that woman to meet me here even without my consent? Actually, yes, but since you kicked her out, I'll be the one to explain everything. Besides, I also know all about Ginny from her. Just explain everything. I want to know. I tried to find out about Ginny, and apparently, Ginny is a bad woman. She was expelled from school because she had a special relationship with a rich man and was even married. She only wanted the man's wealth. It started after his father died, so I think it can be justified because you yourself know that everyone needs money to live, right? Don't you talk, replied Lisa, who was furious with what she heard. Who is talking nonsense? Go to Ginny's school and ask yourself the truth. Actually, I still don't believe what Sumi said at that time. So, I decided to go to Ginny's old school to find out firsthand about the truth, and that was indeed confirmed by the school guards. When Ginny didn't go to school, there were some friends who accidentally saw her with the rich guy, and many photos of them that looked affectionate were posted on the school wall. But because Jenny is a very quiet and high-achieving student, so the teachers defended it. However, because the student's parents objected to it, she was forced to be expelled from school. It's all real because I was the one who went there myself, and that's why It's enough. I want to go home, said Lisa, who was fed up with the information she heard from Jisoo, and immediately got up from her seat. Why so rush? Even we just met, asked Jisoo, who turned to Lisa. Lisa was silent, didn't reply to Jisoo's question. She walked away from the cafe. All the way in the car, Lisa looked dreamy. It felt like he was thinking about what Jisoo said about Ginny. Is she really like that? But she doesn't look like what Jisoo said at all. But arriving at home, Lisa wanted to ask Ginny the truth herself. But when she entered the room, she found his wife sleeping. I hope it's not true. Tomorrow I will ask you directly if it's all true. I don't know what will happen next, Lisa said slowly, then walked to the bathroom. The next morning, Ginny woke up, and that morning her face looked excited. As usual, that morning Ginny was busy preparing breakfast for her husband. Lisa, who just came out of the room, went straight to the kitchen for breakfast. However, his eyes turned to Ginny, who that morning looked different than usual. Beautiful, Lisa said subconsciously and smiled very thinly. Yes, Ginny looked very beautiful that morning with long flowing hair and a plain mini dress that wrapped her curves. Ginny felt uncomfortable when she knew that Lisa was watching her. What do you see? Jenny snapped while raising one eyebrow. Who has seen you? Lisa replied, then looked away. How's your leg? Lisa asked while looking at Ginny's feet. Already better, replied Ginny, who was again busy with filling food into Lisa's plate. You don't have to go to work today. I already asked your boss for permission. You have no right to interfere in my work. Anxious. Your leg still hurts. If I let you work, what will people say? You want me to be accused of torturing you? Said Lisa, who is no less annoyed with her sharp gaze. Ginny just sighed heavily, looking at Lisa briefly without wanting to argue with her. Then she continued her delayed activities. After getting her husband to eat, Ginny sat opposite Lisa. She started to take food for herself to eat. Should I ask her now? Lisa thought as she chewed her food and looked at Ginny, who was also enjoying her breakfast. I want to ask you something, said Lisa after swallowing her food. What do you ask? Ginny replied without looking at Lisa. Have you ever been expelled from school? Asked Lisa, who was still focused on looking at Ginny, who was still busy chewing food. Immediately hearing the question from her husband, Ginny immediately stopped her activities. She swallowed the food that was still lodged in his mouth. Yes, she answered, then sipped clear water from his glass, which he gripped quite tightly. What is the reason that you can be expelled? That's none of your business, so you shouldn't interfere too much, Ginny said, then got up from her seat and was about to leave the dining table. I'm just asking, am I wrong? Said Lisa, raising her voice. Obviously wrong. Do you know, you and your family coming into my life is a mistake. Moreover, you ask about my problems and affairs, replied Ginny, who was holding back tears. Watch your words. This has nothing to do with my family. You say it's a mistake. I should be the one talking to you like that. I asked nicely, and you just have to explain it. What's so hard about it? Oh, I know, maybe true, the rumors that say you were expelled from school for having a special relationship with a rich man who is already married, Lisa said loudly, with a mocking smile. Ginny was just silent and tried to continue her footsteps because she didn't want to listen to her husband's words that hurt her so much. It's true, you just want to find a rich man. Yes, right. It's only fitting that when I replace Jisoo to get married, you don't deny it at all. She continued, looking at Ginny's back.